Chapter 13. Let It Live. A week later, Dorian Gray was at his house in the country, where he had invited Lord Henry and several other friends. Among them was the pretty Duchess of Monmouth, with her old husband. She seemed to like Dorian very much. It was tea-time, and the warm light of the huge lamp that stood on the table lit up the delicate cups. The friends were having tea and laughing, and talking about the evening party. "Let me get you some orchids, Duchess," cried Dorian, starting to his feet. "I hope you are not in love with Dorian, my dear. He is very dangerous. You had better take care," said Lord Henry to Duchess of Monmouth. "If he were not, there would be no battle. How long Mr. Gray is! Let us go and help him. I have not yet told him the color of my dress." "Ah, you must suit your dress to his flowers." He had hardly finished the sentence before they heard the dull sound of a heavy fall. Everybody started up. The Duchess stood motionless in horror, and with fear in his eyes, Lord Henry ran out of the room. He found Dorian Gray lying face downwards on the floor. He was carried at once into the blue drawing-room and laid upon a sofa. "What has happened?" he asked at last. "Oh, I remember. Am I safe here, Harry?" He began to tremble. "My dear Dorian," answered Lord Henry, "you are not well. You had better not come down to dinner. I will take you to your place." "No, I will come down. I would rather come down. I must not be alone." He went to his room and dressed. Now and then cold fear and terror ran through him. He had seen the face of James Vane, pressed against the window and watching him. The next day he did not leave the house, and indeed spent most of the time in his own room. He was sick with a wild terror of dying, and yet indifferent to life itself. If the curtain trembled in the wind, he shook. The dead leaves that were blown against the windows frightened him. When he closed his eyes, he saw again the sailor's face looking through the glass. Horror seemed laid its hand upon his heart. He tried to tell himself that he had dreamt it. Yes, it was impossible. Sybil Vane's brother had not come back to kill him. He had sailed away in his ship. From him he was safe. Why, the man did not know who he was, could not know who he was. The mask of youth had saved him. And yet the fear stayed with him. Oh, in what a wild hour of madness he had killed his friend! He saw it all again. Each dreadful detail came back to him. When Lord Henry came in at 6 o'clock, he found him crying as one whose heart will break. It was not till the third day that he went out. It was a bright, clear winter morning, and the friends were going to hunt in the forest. Dorian joined the shooting party. Near the forest, he saw Sir Geoffrey Clouston, the Duchess's brother, and came up to him. "Have you had good sport, Geoffrey?" he asked. "Not very good, Dorian. I think most of the birds have gone to the open. I hope it will be better after lunch, when we get to New Place." The cold, clear air, the sounds and the smells of the forest filled Dorian with happiness. Suddenly, with upright ears and long legs, started a hare. It disappeared in the nearest bush. Sir Geoffrey put his gun to his shoulder, but there was something in the animal's beauty that strangely charmed Dorian Gray, and he cried out at once, "Don't kill it, Geoffrey! Let it live!" "What nonsense, Dorian!" laughed his companion, and he fired. There were two cries heard, the cry of a hare in pain, which is dreadful, and the cry of a man in agony, which is worse. "Good heavens! I have hit a beater!" cried Sir Geoffrey. "Stop shooting there!" he called out at the top of his voice. "A man is hurt!" In a few moments a dead body was pulled into the sunlight. Dorian turned away in horror. It seemed to him that misfortune followed wherever he went. The wood seemed to him to be alive with faces. There were the sounds of stamping feet and the low buzz of voices. After a few moments that were to him endless hours of pain, he felt a hand on his shoulder. He started and looked round. "Dorian," said Lord Henry, "I'd better tell them that the shooting is stopped for today. It would not look well to go on." "I wish it were stopped forever, Harry," Dorian answered bitterly. "The whole thing is dreadful and cruel. Is the man—" He could not finish the sentence. "I am afraid so," said Lord Henry. "Come, let us go home." They walked side by side without speaking. Then Dorian looked at Lord Henry and said, with a heavy sigh, "What a terrible thing! Oh, my dear fellow, it can't be helped. It was the man's own fault. Why did he get in front of the guns? Besides, it is nothing to us." Dorian shook his head. "Harry, I feel something horrible is going to happen to some of us. To myself, perhaps." "What on earth could happen to you, Dorian? You have everything in the world that a man can want. There is no one who would not be delighted to change places with you." "There is no one with whom I would not change places, Harry. I am telling you the truth. I have no terror of death. It is the coming of death that terrifies me. I feel its monstrous wings around me. Don't you see a man moving behind the trees there, watching me, waiting for me?" "Yes," Lord Henry said, smiling. "I see the gardener waiting for you. I suppose he wants to ask you what flowers you wish to have on the table tonight. How absurdly nervous you are, my dear fellow. You must come and see my doctor when we get back to town." The gardener came and gave Dorian a letter from the Duchess. Dorian didn't open it, but said to the gardener, "Tell the Duchess that I am coming in." "How fond women are of doing dangerous things," laughed Lord Henry. "How fond you are of saying dangerous things, Harry. I like the Duchess very much, but I don't love her. I wish I could love, but I seem to have lost the passion and forgotten the desire. I am too much concentrated on myself. I want to escape, to go away, to forget. It was silly of me to come down here at all." "Dorian, you are in trouble. Why not tell me what it is? You know I would help you." "I can't tell you, Harry," he answered sadly. "I hope it was an accident, but I can't help feeling something terrible is going to happen to me. Ah, here is the Duchess. You see, we have come back, Duchess." "I have heard all about it, Mr. Gray," she answered. "Poor Geoffrey is shocked, and it seems that you asked him not to shoot the hare. How curious." "Yes, it was very curious. I don't know what made me say it. The hare looked the loveliest of little live things, but I am sorry they told you about the man. It is terrible." "It is annoying," said Lord Henry. "It is of no interest, but if Geoffrey had done the thing on purpose, how interesting he would be. I should like to know someone who had committed a real murder." "How horrid of you, Harry!" cried the Duchess. "Isn't it, Mr. Gray?" "Harry, Mr. Gray is ill again. He is going to faint." "It is nothing, Duchess," Dorian answered. "My nerves are dreadfully out of order. That is all. I am afraid I walked too far this morning. I didn't hear what Harry said. Was it very bad? You must tell me some other time. I think I must go and lie down. You will excuse me, won't you?" At 5 o'clock next morning, Dorian rang his bell for his servant and gave him orders to pack his things for the night express to town. He didn't want to stay in his house in the country any longer. Death walked there in the sunlight. The grass of the forest had been spotted with blood. Then he wrote a note to Lord Henry, telling him that he was going up to town to consult his doctor. As he was finishing the letter, a knock came to the door, and the policeman came. "I suppose you have come about the unfortunate accident of this morning," Dorian said, taking up a pen. "Yes, sir," answered the policeman. "Was the poor fellow married? Had he any family?" asked Dorian, looking bored. "If so, I will send them any sum of money." "We don't know who he is, sir. That is why I decided to ask you about him. Nobody saw him before. He looks like a sailor." "A sailor?" Dorian cried out. "Did you say a sailor?" "Yes, sir." "Was there anything found on him?" said Dorian, looking straight at the man. "Anything that would tell his name?" "Some money, sir, and a revolver, but no name." Dorian started to his feet. "Where is the body? Quick, I must see it at once." He hurried to the house where the dead body was, and in less than a quarter of an hour, Dorian Gray was standing near it. The face was covered with cloth, but Dorian couldn't touch it. "Take that thing off his face. I want to see it," he said to his servant. When the servant did it, a cry of joy broke from Dorian's lips. The dead man was James Vane. Dorian stood there for some minutes looking at the dead body. As he rode home, his eyes were full of tears, for he knew he was safe.